Okay.
Okay. Today we're going to talk about narratives, and especially we're going to talk about using adjuncts to denote linking. Okay. So just to describe what an adjunct is, an adjunct is one of the 5 major clause functions. Other clause functions include the subject or verb, object, or complement. And that will all make sense on the next slide. Okay? So an adjunct modifies, comments on, or expands in some way the meaning of a clause. So on this next slide, we'll actually see what these things look like. So, Millie, could you read that first sentence, please?
Luckily, the weather was very nice.
Excellent. Okay. And the next sentence?
I met Brandon Flowers fairly recently.
Excellent. And the last sentence there.
Jane usually stays at the hotel.
Okay. So, as you can see, if you take away up above, I've explained what each sentence is as far as clause functions. We have the adjuncts, and the subject, the verb, and the complement. I'm not going to talk about those in this lesson. I'm just talking about the adjuncts right now. So notice if I take away luckily, has the meaning of the sentence changed?
Not really.
Not really, okay. Or also here, if I take out fairly recently?
It's still similar.
Yeah, it's still similar, yeah. There's not, or also here, if we take out usually.
Similar.
Yeah, everything is still the same. However, when we add these, let me erase these here. Click. It just gives a little bit more information. Okay. Now, luckily, fairly recently, and usually, these are examples of, this next slide here, examples of place or time or frequency. And just like with these sentences, these are optional. That means a sentence does not need to have an adjunct, but they're nice to have because they show how things, they just give more meaning. In this lesson in particular, we're going to talk more about linking adjuncts. Okay, I'll go to the next slide here. What a linking adjunct does is it shows a connection between 2 sentences. So, let's see. Millie, could you read that first sentence, please?
In 1990, girls accounted for fully 2/3 of the children globally without access to schools. In addition, more than 2/3 of the children who drop out every year in developing countries are girls.
Okay, so if we look at in addition, how does? Oh, just a second. All right. If you look at in addition, how does this link the idea from this sentence and this sentence together?
It links them together.
And how?
By saying that the second point is adding to the first point, is like providing extra information.
Right, exactly. So here, this is talking about girls, and then this is also talking about girls. It's 2 different pieces of information, but it joins them together. Okay, great. Let's look at example number 3. Can you read that out loud?
Example 3.
Yes.
English is obviously important, but at the same time, it's important to learn another language to broaden your horizons.
This is a sentence you would hear in America, not in Hong Kong.
Oh.
Right?
Okay. I see.
This is a American English. Anyway, so here we have this clause at the same time. So it's showing, once again, this is a link. You know, a link is like between two chains. I wish I had a chain here. I could show you. What is the link here in this sentence?
The link here.
So what ideas are coming together?
English.
English and what else?
Important.
Right. Okay. So you have English and then important. Anything else you see?
Language.
Right. Good job. Okay. So we have language and English and important. So all those things are linked together with at the same time. Okay. Great. Let's go on to the next slide. Now, in particular, in academic English, it's important to understand how these linking adjuncts are used for sequence. So, and here's some good examples of sequence words. First of all, what does sequence mean?
An order.
Right. Okay. So you have an order. And here's examples of different words that different linking adjuncts you can use to show a sequence. Okay. Can you think of any other examples of linking adjuncts?
Next.
Yes. Excellent. Next is good.
At the end.
At the end. Good.
At the end. Yeah.
So we got that one on the list. Great.
Oh, okay.
Are there any of these that you're not? Are there any of these words you're not familiar with?
No.
Words you've never? No. Okay. Good. That was my hope. Okay.
Good.
So I didn't want to make things too complicated. Okay. So linking adjuncts for narrative. When we usually when we think of academic English, we don't think of simple storytelling like Three Little Pigs or I'm trying to think of a Chinese story.
I know Three Little Pigs.
Oh, you know Three Little Pigs. Okay.
I know Three Little Pigs.
Okay, great. Isn't there a Chinese story about something with a silver axe?
Silver axe.
Or a hatchet? Yeah, dropped in the...
Is it a story about... I think that's Western. It's about how honest the person was.
Right. That's the story. So usually when we think about narrative, we think of that kind of story. But narrative is also used to tell other things. For example, describing a process. So when we are talking about like when we do an experiment, we have to give the steps that we took to do that experiment. Have you ever done any experiments in school?
Yes.
Science experiments? Okay. And when you wrote them, you probably used linking adjuncts?
Or maybe I could write down numbers.
Oh, okay. Numbers are faster, aren't they? That's true. Good point. Okay. So what we're going to do in the rest of this lesson is we're going to watch short pieces of a movie, and we're going to talk about the movie, and we're trying to get some practice using linking adjuncts. So, for example, could you read that bottom sentence?
Nick the snowman wanted to join the party, but first he had to get out of his snowblower.
Excellent. So here we have, obviously this is an